Hey there, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into something that's going to flip the way you think about aging right on its head. Feel 50 at 75? This simple trick could rewind your clock. Yeah, you heard me right. 75 doesn't have to feel like some dusty milestone where you're creaking along, counting the years. What if I told you there's a way to feel as spry, sharp, and alive at 75 as you did at 50? And no, this isn't about some magic pill, a crazy diet where you're choking down kale smoothies all day, or a gym membership you'll never use. It's simpler than that. So simple, you might already be doing it without even knowing the power it's packing. Stick with me because we're going to unpack this one trick that's got science buzzing and real people swearing by it. It's not just about adding years to your life, it's about adding life to your years. Before we get rolling, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button and tap the bell. We're dropping fresh, game-changing insights on health, aging, and living your best life every week. And if you're vibing with this video, drop a 1 in the comments. If it's not your speed, toss me a 0. I'm all about making these hit home for you. Alright, let's jump in. So picture this. You're 75, sitting on your porch, sipping your coffee, and instead of feeling like the world's slowing down around you, you're buzzing with energy. Your knees don't ache when you stand up, your mind's sharp enough to crack a joke or two, and you've got that bounce in your step that makes people double take and whisper, "No way they're 75. Sounds like a dream, right? But it's not. It's real, and it's happening for folks who've latched on to this one habit that's quietly turning back the clock. Meet Carol, a 77-year-old I heard about recently. Carol's the kind of person who'd make you jealous at any age. She's out gardening every morning, laughing with her grandkids, even taking pottery classes just for kicks. People always guess she's in her late 50s, and she just smirks and says, "Nope, been around a lot longer than that." What's her secret? It's not Botox or some pricey supplement she's peddling on Instagram. It's something she started doing almost by accident years ago, and now it's her lifeline: walking. Not power walking with fancy gear or clocking marathon miles, just plain everyday walking, with a twist we'll get into. And here's the wild part. Science says she's onto something huge. Studies are piling up showing that walking, done the right way, can shave years off how old you feel. Not just in your head, but in your body too. It's not about grinding yourself into the ground. It's about moving with purpose, consistency, and a little bit of joy. So, let's break this down. Why walking's the trick, how it works its magic, and how you can make it work for you to feel 50 at 75 or even younger. Ready? Let's take a stroll through this together. First off, why walking? I mean, it's not exactly breaking news. People have been hoofing it since forever. But here's the thing. We've underestimated it. We think of walking as this basic, boring thing you do to get from the car to the store, or maybe a chore when the dog's whining at the door. But when you hit 75, walking isn't just a way to move. It's a way to reset. Think about Carol again. She didn't start walking to stay young or chase some fitness fad. It started small. Her doctor told her to get moving after a knee twinge in her 60s, so she'd shuffle around her block, grumbling about it at first. But then she noticed something. Her knee stopped bugging her, her mood perked up, and she wasn't huffing as much climbing the stairs. Fast forward a decade, and she's clocking a couple miles a day, easy as breathing. She told me, "I didn't plan to feel this good. I just kept going, and it stuck." That's the beauty of it. Walking's low-key, but it's a powerhouse. Science backs this up hard. A study out of the University of Pittsburgh found that older adults who walk regularly, at a decent clip, not a crawl, can cut their risk of mobility issues by almost 50%. That's huge. It's not just about keeping your legs working, it's about keeping your whole system firing. Heart, lungs, joints, even your brain. And here's the kicker. It doesn't take much. We're not talking hours of pounding pavement. Just 20-30 minutes a day, with a little intention behind it, can start flipping switches in your body that make you feel decades lighter. Let's dig into how this works, because it's not just move more, feel better. There's real biology at play here. When you walk, especially at a brisk pace, you're doing more than stretching your legs. You're giving your heart a wake-up call. Your ticker pumps harder, blood flows smoother, and oxygen gets where it needs to go. That's massive at 75, when your cardiovascular system can start acting like it's ready to clock out. A study from the American Heart Association says older adults who walk briskly for at least 150 minutes a week, about 20 minutes a day, can drop their risk of heart disease by up to 30%. That's not chump change. That's your engine running like it did when you were chasing kids around the yard at 50. And it's not just your heart. Walking keeps your lungs in the game too. Every step forces you to breathe a little deeper, and over time, that builds capacity. Carol swears she can feel it. She used to get winded hauling groceries, but now she's lugging bags up her front steps like it's nothing. She laughed and said, "I'm not out of breath, I'm out of excuses." But it's not just the physical stuff. Walking's a ninja for your brain too. Research out of the University of Illinois found that regular walkers over 65 show less brain shrinkage. Yeah, your brain literally stays bigger than folks who sit around. That means sharper memory, quicker thinking, and a mood that doesn't tank when the clouds roll in. So when you're strolling along, you're not just moving your body, you're rewiring it piece by piece to feel younger than the calendar says. Now, let's talk about the joints, because if you're 75, you've probably had a few mornings where your knees or hips wake up grumpier than you do. Here's where walking gets sneaky. It's gentle, but it's gold. Unlike running or jumping jacks, which can rattle your bones at that age, walking lubes up your joints like oil in an old engine. It keeps the cartilage happy, the synovial fluid flowing, and the stiffness at bay. Take Jim, a 76-year-old retired teacher I met at a park once. Jim used to hobble around with arthritis in his knees. He'd grown just getting off the couch. His doc told him to try walking, and he rolled his eyes thinking, "Yeah, right, that'll fix it." But he gave it a shot, started with 10 minutes around his yard, leaning on a cane at first. A month later, he ditched the cane. 6 months in, he's doing a mile without breaking a sweat, and he told me, "My knees don't scream at me anymore. They just hum along." Studies back Jim up. Research from the Arthritis Foundation says walking can cut joint pain by up to 40% in older adults. Plus, it strengthens the muscles around those joints, so they're not doing all the work solo. That's the trick. Walking doesn't beat you up. It builds you up, slow and steady, until you're moving like you did 25 years ago. But here's where it gets personal. It's not just about the body, it's about the vibe. Walking's got this quiet magic that lifts your whole spirit. Think about the last time you took a good walk, not a rush dash to the mailbox, but a real, no-pressure stroll. Did you feel that little spark? That's what keeps people like Carol and Jim hooked. Carol told me she started noticing stuff. The way the trees shift in the wind, the smell of rain coming, the sound of kids laughing a block away. It's like the world got bigger, she said. That's not fluff. There's science here too. Walking outdoors, especially in green spaces, slashes stress hormones like cortisol, which can pile up and age you faster than a bad haircut. A study from Stanford found that 30 minutes of walking in nature can drop your stress levels by 20% and boost your mood for hours after. At 75, when life can feel heavy, maybe you're missing old friends, or the news is all gloom, walking gives you a reset button. It's you, the fresh air, and a rhythm that says, "I'm still here, and I've still got it." That's why Carol feels 50. She's not just moving, she's living, soaking in every step like it's a gift. Let's zoom out for a minute and think about why this matters so much at 75. By that age, a lot of folks start buying into the myth that decline's just part of the deal. Your body's slowing, your energy's fading, your best days are in the rear view. But walking flips that script. It's like telling your body, "Nah, we're not done yet." And it's not just the big stuff like heart health or joint pain, it's the little wins too. Like how you feel when you pop up from a chair without a grunt, or when you keep up with your grandkids without needing a breather. That's what happened to Susan, a 74-year-old I chatted with last month. Susan used to dread her yearly family picnic. Her legs would ache, she'd tire out fast, and she'd spend half the day parked on a bench watching everyone else have fun. Then she started walking, just 15 minutes around her neighborhood, nothing fancy. A year later, she's tossing a frisbee with her nephew, laughing like she's 50 again. She told me, "I didn't realize how much I'd given up until I got it back." That's the sneaky power of walking. It doesn't just keep you going, it brings you back to yourself. Studies even show it can boost your immune system. Regular walkers over 70 catch fewer colds and bounce back faster when they do. At an age when every bug feels like a knockout punch, that's a game changer. So how do you make this work for you? That's the million-dollar question, because it's not about turning into some fitness freak overnight. The trick's in the how, not the how much. First, it's about pace. Brisk, not brutal. You don't need to sprint like you're late for a bus, but aim for a speed where you're breathing a little harder, maybe chatting but not belting out show tunes. Think purposeful stroll. Fast enough to feel it, chill enough to enjoy it. Carol's got it down. She says she walks like she's got somewhere to be, but she's not racing the clock. Studies say 3 to 4 miles an hour is the sweet spot, about 100 steps a minute if you're counting. Not sure? Try this. Walk for 10 seconds, count your steps, aim for 16 or 17. If you're hitting that, you're golden. Second, it's consistency. 20 to 30 minutes a day, most days of the week. Doesn't have to be all at once. 2 15-minute jaunts work just as well. Jim started with 10 minutes and built up. Carol does her loop after breakfast. Find your groove. Maybe it's morning with the birds or evening with the sunset. Third, mix it up. Pavement's fine, but trails, parks, even a quiet street with some trees kick it up a notch. The uneven ground works your balance. The scenery works your soul. And here's a pro tip. Ditch the earbuds sometimes. Let the world be your soundtrack. Birds, wind, whatever's out there. Carol swears it's half the fun. But what if you're thinking, I'm 75, my knees are shot, I haven't walked more than a block in years? Fair question. Starting's the hardest part. Jim was there, cane and all. He didn't leap to a mile. He shuffled 100 yards, rested, did it again tomorrow. Point is, you don't have to be a superhero day one. Start small. 5 minutes around your living room, then the driveway, then the block. Add a minute when it feels easy. Grab a buddy or a stick if you need steadying. There's no shame in that. Studies say even 10 minutes a day can kickstart benefits. Better mood, looser joints, a little more pep. And if you're worried about overdoing it, don't be. Walking's forgiving. The American College of Sports Medicine says it's the safest bet for older adults. No jarring, no crazy gear, just you and your shoes. Speaking of shoes, get a decent pair. Nothing fancy, just comfy with good support. Jim upgraded his sneakers and said it was like walking on clouds. Carol's got her beat-up Nikes she refuses to replace. They're her lucky charm. Now let's talk about the ripple effects, because walking doesn't just stop at your body. It changes how you show up in the world. Take Bob, a 78-year-old former truck driver I ran into at a coffee shop. Bob used to be the guy who'd park himself in his recliner all day flipping channels, feeling like time was just slipping away. His wife nagged him to move, and he finally caved, started walking to the corner store instead of driving. At first it was a slog, he'd grumble the whole way. But then he started chatting with the cashier, waving at the mailman, noticing the flowers popping up in spring. A year later, he's doing 2 miles a day, and he told me, I'm not just walking, I'm part of things again. That's the secret sauce. Walking pulls you out of the sidelines. It's not just exercise. It's connection. To your neighborhood, to the rhythm of life, to yourself. Studies say social interaction, even the casual kind, boosts longevity, and walking's a natural gateway. You don't have to join a club or host a party. Just step outside and the world meets you halfway. And here's where it gets deeper. It's about confidence. At 75, it's easy to feel like your body's betraying you, like every ache or wobble is a sign you're done. Walking flips that. Every step's a little victory, a quiet, I've still got this. Think about Susan again. Before walking, she'd shrunk into herself, dodging family stuff because she couldn't keep up. Now, she's the one suggesting a hike, grinning as she outpaces her kids. She told me, I feel like me again, not some old lady waiting to fade. That's what walking does. It hands you back your swagger. Research from the Journal of Gerontology says regular walkers over 70 report higher self-esteem and lower rates of depression. It's not just physical, it's mental armor. You're not shuffling through life, you're striding, head up, owning it. Carol feels it, Jim feels it, Susan feels it. 50's not a number they're chasing, it's a vibe they're living. Let's get real for a sec. Walking's not sexy. It's not trending on TikTok with hashtags and influencers flexing their step counts. But that's why it works. It's basic, it's human, it's yours. Take Maria, 79, who I met at a farmer's market. She's tiny, barely 5 feet, but she's hauling a basket of veggies like it's nothing. She walks every morning, rain, shine, whatever, around her little town, waving at neighbors, stopping to pet dogs. She told me, "I don't think about exercise. I just go, and it keeps me going." That's the trick. It's not a chore if you make it yours. Maria's not chasing a goal. She's living her day, and her body's thanking her for it. Studies say walkers like her, consistent, casual, in it for the long haul, can add up to 7 years to their life expectancy. 7 years. That's not just time, that's grandkids' graduations, more sunsets, more coffee on the porch. And it's not about being perfect. Miss a day? Fine. Shuffle instead of stride? Cool. The magic's in showing up over and over until it's just who you are. But let's not kid ourselves. Starting can feel daunting. Maybe you're picturing yourself huffing after 5 steps, or your hip's been barking since last winter. That's where patience comes in. Take Ellen, 75, who I heard about from a friend. Ellen spent years glued to her armchair after a hip replacement. Walking sounded like a pipe dream. Her physical therapist pushed her to try, and she started with a lap around her kitchen, clinging to the counter. She hated it, felt weak, wobbly, old, but she stuck with it. 5 minutes turned to 10, then 15. A year later, she's doing a mile around her cul-de-sac, no counter in sight. She told me, "I thought I was too far gone, but I wasn't. I just had to start." That's the deal. You're not too late, too stiff, too anything. Studies say even late starters, folks picking up walking in their 70s, see gains in strength, balance, and energy within weeks. Ellen's proof. Small steps stack up, and suddenly you're not just walking, you're rocking it. So imagine this. You're 75, and instead of feeling like the years are piling on, you're shedding them. You're up in the morning, lacing your shoes, hitting the sidewalk with a little swagger. Your heart's pumping, your legs are humming, your head's clear as a bell. People look at you and think, 50 tops. That's what walking can do. Not because it's flashy, but because it's steady. Carol's out there painting her canvases, Jim's ditching his cane, Maria's hauling her veggies, all because they found this one trick and ran with it, or rather, walked with it. So, what about you? Where could a walk take you today? Maybe it's just to the corner and back. Maybe it's a loop around the park. Doesn't matter. Start where you stand and see where it leads. Drop a 1 in the comments if this lit a spark for you, or a 0 if it's not your thing. Hit that like button if you're feeling inspired. Subscribe if you're not already in the squad. And I'll see you in the next one. Maybe on a walk of your own.